Real quick, I just want to mention that I have a Twitch channel I stream on, and if any of you guys are looking for some extra content, I will leave the link down to that in the description. Any support would be greatly appreciated. Alright boys, listen up. So we currently have a lot of non-sunset SMGs inside of Destiny 2, and with SMGs being, well, undoubtedly the best PvP weapon in the entire game right now, I think it is a fairly adequate time to put them all in a tier list. And yes, I did just say fairly adequate. I didn't think I'd say that in the video, but it sounded kind of smart, so I was like, you know what, why not? But to be more specific, we do have 32 different SMGs to rank in the tier list for today's video. Now, there is a little bit of criteria that I want to go over. 1, the SMG's TTK. 2, the perk pool. And then, obviously, its base stats as well, because you guys know Zoom is a very important stat in SMGs. And SMGs with lower zoom, like 13, which most of those have been erased from the game, but there still are some of them, they're really bad. That's all I'm going to say, and they're not going to fare very well on this tier list unless they have an absolutely juiced perk pool. And I also do want to quickly point out that accessibility is not a part of this tier list at all. It doesn't matter if the SMG is damn near impossible to get, or you can literally get it from a strike. It does not matter. It's literally just based on performance, so I don't want you guys being like, well, Gravely, Ikelos, you know, you can craft it. Does that give it a little more points? Kind of. I mean, but like not really, because it doesn't matter on this tier list, but you guys know where Ikelos is going anyway. That was just an example. But without further ado, let's just kick off this list, starting with D tier. So in D tier, we have the Blood Feud, Callous Mini Tool, Forensic Nightmare, Mida Mini Tool, Risk Runner, and the Osteoporosis. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. All of these SMGs in this tier, none of them are necessarily so bad that you can't use, because all SMGs are good, but they all lack zoom. They all have some major issues. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about D tier, but I mean, you guys get why Callous Mini Tool, Mida Mini Tool, Forensic, and Blood Feud are in there. They're just not good SMGs. They have low zooms with bad perk pools, or, I mean, they're really just PvE weapons. I mean, you look at Callous Mini Tool, that is one of my favorite PvE guns in the game, but let's just be real. It's not meant for PvP, with the exception of maybe if you're using something like Mida Multi-Tool with it. But even then, that maybe boosts it to C tier. It's still not a great weapon overall. And as for the 2 exotics in this tier, Risk Runner and Osteo, I may be going a little bit hard on them, but you guys got to understand, what does Risk Runner really bring to the table? Yes, it counters arc weapons, but really the only arc weapon you guys are going to see in the game right now is Ikelos SMG. And let's say you just put on Risk Runner and you melt the guy with Ikelos a couple times. What is he going to do? He's probably just going to switch to Immortal or Borrow Time or Terrabus, something like that, and then your Risk Runner is pretty much useless. You just have a 900 RPM adaptive SMG with like 2 zoom. That's literally all you have. And then as for Osteo Striga, like, it's probably the least fear-inducing weapon in the entire game. It's just a trade machine. It's not very practical. Kind of a gimmick. Maybe could be C tier, but it's just, it trades way too much for my liking. Moving on to the C tier, we have a few more SMGs that I just can't put any higher on this list. One is Death Adder, because, I mean, if you guys look at that gun, 13 base zoom, pretty cooked. That's all I'm going to say. Only thing saving it is that it does have a really good perk pool. And then after that, we are going to throw in the 7 Seraph YT, or whatever. I always forget what this gun is called. It does have a lot of range, but not a great perk pool. And like I said, only thing keeping this gun even in C tier is that it reaches 23 meters, and, you know, it has a cool model, which is kind of nice too, but that doesn't really count for anything. And then we are going to throw in the Stochastic Variable. Not the greatest SMG, but it does have Zen Moment and some, you know, kind of unique usability. I don't know what to call it with the Phase Mag perk, because you can make a 600 lightweight, which is kind of cool. A little more versatility than something like, well, pretty much anything in the D tier in my opinion. And then after the Stochastic Variable, we have the Synchronic Roulettes from Neo Muna. Not great, but it does have target lock, so it does kind of make up for it. And then the final SMG going in C tier, I know it's a 750, but Unforgiven, it's just not great. It's definitely a PvE monster, but not very good in PvP at all, so it has to land in the C tier. Now, I will say though, boys, between the C and the D tier, I feel like the C tier SMGs are a lot more usable than the things in D tier. Like, you could take a C tier SMG in this game right now, and you could probably fry with it. That's all I'm going to say. That's how good SMGs are. Just anything in D tier, like I said, horrible, but everything in C tier, even Unforgiven. Like I said, it is a bona fide PvE weapon. That's all it is. It is an amazing PvE weapon. It's not great in PvP, but I guarantee if you're a good player, you could take Unforgiven in PvP and drop like a 30 piece with like a 5 KD. I guarantee you could, because SMGs are just in that good of a spot. But like I said, C tier, all I'm going to say is this is kind of the cutoff. I would not use anything below C tier, but you guys would have to stick around for B, A, and S tier because those are really what you guys should be using. Speaking of those higher tiers, the first SMG in B tier is going to be the Cold Front, mainly because, I mean, there's a few issues with this gun, but there's also a few great things. One, I mean, it has rangefinder, it has a pretty good perk pool, but it also, at the same time, lacks stability a lot. So if you don't have a perfect 5 out of 5 roll in this gun, there is a big difference between a 4 out of 5 Cold Front and a 5 out of 5. And that's the only reason I can't put it in A or even it wouldn't go in S tier. But if it had more stability and you didn't literally require a 5 out of 5, it probably would be an A tier SMG. But I just can't put it any higher for that reason. And then also in B tier, we are going to put the... Honestly, there's a lot of good SMGs that belong pretty high, but we're going to put the Pizzicato and the Hero's Burrito, because these, I mean, they're 900 adaptives. It's not the greatest archetype in the game, but they do have good enough perk pools to where I feel like they do edge out pretty much everything in C and D tier. Oh yeah, also, Extraordinary Rendition and Manticore also have to go in this tier. Manticore, it kind of has that same thing with Osteo going on. Kind of a gimmick, but a little bit more usable. And then Extraordinary, just not the greatest PvP perk pool in the world. I feel like I may get some disagreement with the SMGs in B tier, but like I gotta say, man, I can't put something like Cold Front in A tier because, like I said, I know performance is the main thing in this video, but performance on 4 out of 5 God rolls matters just as much as performance on a 5 out of 5 because on a gun that's not exactly the easiest thing to farm in the world, and I know you could focus Cold Front, I know you could, but I turned in so many presents last dawning for a rangefinder tap or a rangefinder perpetual. I never got the SMG, and like I said, you can really feel when you only have like 8 stability on your gun, so that's the reason I can't put something like Cold Front a little bit higher on this list. But everything else in B tier, I'm not arguing, those do not belong in A or S tier. Moving on to A tier though, this is probably going to be by far the most controversial tier on this list, but we have the Escape Velocity, Onyo D, Every Waking Moment, which I know a lot of people are not going to believe me until I show you guys why this is an A tier SMG, but it is really that good and people sleep on it, mainly because I think people just don't know about it. Then we have Funnel Web, and then honestly, yeah, Crucible SMG barely makes it into A tier. I want to emphasize that. Barely. Literally barely makes it into A tier. And then we have Submission, Multi-Mock, and honestly, I was going to put this in A tier, but now that I realize it, I don't think this belongs in A tier. It's the Prolonged Endangerment, I can't talk. It does not belong in A tier. And then we have Shayura's Wrath. Now, I know more than anything, when I threw this SMG in A tier, a lot of you guys probably spit out your drink all over whatever you were watching this on. But let me just point this out. You could go for something like Full Bore, Ricochet, Rangefinder, Kill Clip, which, by the way, this is one of only 2 SMGs in the entire game that gets Rangefinder Kill Clip. And for the longest time, it was the only SMG that got this perk combo in the entire game, obviously until Immortal came out. Then you throw in Range Masterwork. This SMG hits 24 meters while still having Kill Clip. For a 600 RPM SMG, this is really, really good. And like I said, boys, obviously A tier, it's the most controversial in this video. You can definitely argue that something should be moved up or something should be moved down, but I think it's pretty good. Like I said, I know that Every Waking Moment pick is going to just throw some people for a loop, but with how hard it is to get Shayura's now, I mean, Every Waking Moment is a very, very good option. It's so easy to farm, which I know I said this list was mainly based on performance, but do I think Shayura's is better? Absolutely. But do I think Every Waking Moment is better than pretty much everything in B tier? Also, yes. So that's kind of why it belongs in A tier. Like I said, you guys can feel free to disagree on that one, but literally, I mean, nobody really knows about that perk combination on that gun. Also, shout out to the guy who just solo supered me in the video. I saw that, so I'm not very happy watching that back. Anyways, though, it is finally time for the S tier, and I just realized my dumb ass forgot to throw an SMG in the A tier. It's friction fire. This was supposed to go in A tier. I don't know how I just looked over that, but it does not belong in S tier because, let's be real, no 600 RPM belongs to S tier. But, you know, friction fire, really good SMG. Definitely one of my favorites. I just kind of forgot about it, but don't worry. If you guys thought that was going in S tier, it's not. I'm not delusional. But the S tier SMGs are going to be Borrowed Time, Ikelos SMG, Teraba, the Immortal, Title, and Huckleberry. And I know Huckleberry is a little bit less popular of a pick that you guys probably didn't expect. Also Title, some people probably didn't expect that at all, but let's be real, if you guys didn't know Immortal, Teraba, Ikelos, and Borrowed Time were going in S tier, I don't really know what you were thinking. I will say, if we were talking about the old Title SMG, this would be nowhere close to S tier, but if you guys didn't know, the reason I'm putting it in S tier for this video is the new Title, which we can actually already see the perks on, you know, Destiny Gunsmith. If you guys put max range on this gun with rangefinder, dynamic sway, which is an absolutely amazing perk combination, then you put range masterwork, you're hitting 25 meters with this SMG. And then dynamic sway is going to make up for this pretty poor stability. And obviously, if you want a 20 plus stability at all times, you could just go with perpetual motion. And this SMG is going to be just fine. 25 meters is really, really good, especially considering that Immortal is probably going to get nerfed very soon in the future. Also, the fact that you do get free ability energy with this gun is really, really nice. And I would definitely not undervalue that part. Even though it is only 5% of your class ability, that is still pretty nice, especially if you're using a longer recharging one like Acrobat's Dodge. You can definitely get a lot more out of the Title than pretty much any other SMG. And like I said, I'm not even going to explain Ikelos, Teraba, or Immortal because they don't need to be explained. I mean, if you don't think... Honestly, you know what? I'm going to do this. Hold up. Can I make a new tier? Can I add a tier to this? How do I add a tier? Add a row above. All right, you know what? We're going to call this new. We're going to call this new tier. I don't know how to rename... Oh, all right. We're just going to... You know what? We're just going to call this broken tier, all right? So there's no confusion. Immortal is in broken tier, and then everything else is over here. And you know what? Ikelos low-key belongs here as well with the origin trait, but I'm just going to leave... I'm going to leave Immortal here because target lock is just stupid. It just does not belong on a 750 SMG, but I do quickly want to explain why Borrowed Time is an S tier SMG because most people don't play Gambit, so they don't know about it, but with max range on this gun, you are reaching 24 meters, and that's before throwing in the field-tested origin trait, which I believe only Borrowed Time and the new Trials SMG have, which is literally free range just for getting damage and kills, which is really easy to do with an SMG. So Borrowed Time is actually even better than it was in previous seasons, so it's easily an S tier option in today's video. And for Huckleberry, I know a lot of people were probably expecting this to be an A tier, but there's a few things that carry this gun for me. One, I mean, I don't know why it says 37 magazine on Gunsmith. That is definitely not right. It only has 30. But every time you get a kill, it's refreshing the mag, which means you can mow through so many people consecutively with this gun. And if you pair that with something like Devour on Warlock, yeah, it's over. That's all I'm going to say. This gun, I don't know if you guys have not tried it with Devour, try it. That's all I'm going to say. But also, it having pre-nerf Rampage helps the gun out a lot. And, you know, when this gun had 13 zoom, yes, it was really bad. But ever since they bumped it to 15, even though the range is a little bit low, I definitely do think this gun is S tier. Maybe less so in 3v3 modes, but, you know, in Control, 6v6, whatever it is. Huckleberry, I mean, if you have it on, you're actually going to have fun, which most guns in this game are pretty brain dead at this point. Now, I don't really have that much else to say about the SMG tier list. Obviously, you know, things could change rather quickly because SMGs have been on top of the meta for quite a while now. Also, by the way, I did just thunder crash that guy who solo supered me because if you solo super me, I'm gonna get your ass back. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, as I was saying, take everything in this video with a grain of salt because SMGs could very well, and I kind of do expect them to get nerfed at the mid-season update. Like I said, I could be wrong. Maybe Bungie leaves them for a little bit longer. But after seeing that first weekend where Immortal had 13 million kills, see, the same weekend it even released into the game, I think that's enough for Bungie to look at it and be like, wow, okay, that is not very balanced, but you never really know with Bungie. Anyways though, that is pretty much going to be all I have for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, I would greatly appreciate it if you left a like and a comment letting me know what you thought. Also, let me know if you agree or disagree with my tier list. Let me know what things you would move. Also, let me know, like, if I'm a complete dumbass and you think this was the worst tier list you've ever watched, definitely let me know in the comments as well. And if you're new around here, it never hurts to hit that subscribe button. Anyways, it's been Gravely. Peace.